easy go.
What's up guys, Versailles here. I've been getting called a hacker in public lobbies, saying that I have unlimited grenades and no skill cooldowns. So I'm going to show this build off. Hopefully it clarifies what's going on and how it's interacting the way that it does. But without further ado, let's go into the skills. We are going to be using Phase Grasp. I recommend Ties That Bind. It has a 2-second longer cooldown than the base, and it also links all the enemies, so more damage. You could use other ones if you want to, but I recommend using this one. Allure goes well with it because it pulls all the enemies in to help them stay linked, and we are using Fire as our element augment. As far as the actual skill points go, we have 5 into Anima, 5 into Infusion, 5 into Tempest. We only have 1 in Wildfire. It was just a dump point. We needed somewhere to put something. Dread 1 point, Deep Well 1 point, 3 into Indiscriminate, 5 into Sustainment. We have 3 into Conflux, 1 from the class mod, and 1 into Forceful Expression. Under the green tree, we have 5 into Root to Rise, and 5 into Helping Hands. And then under blue, 3 into Fast Hands, 2 into Violent Tapestry, and 3 into Transcend. So the reason we chose some of these skills, Anima just increases your effect, duration, and damage. All of your damage in this build is going to be coming from the elemental ticks. This just converts a portion of your weapon damage into your element, which we chose fire, so any weapon you choose will basically burn through flesh. Tempest is more elemental damage, further increases shock. Dread, we will be grasping some enemies, but for the most part we will not. Deep Well, we're going to be using elemental weapons at all times anyway, so why not? Indiscriminate ricochets bullets while they're grasped, so it'll ricochet those bullets you're firing into the entire group. Sustainment, it says anytime you get it says damage, or weapon damage. Okay, I'm losing it here. Anytime you deal elemental damage with your weapon. There's a lot of talk going around about how the grenade is not considered a weapon, but as you will see using this build, your grenade does actually give you that lifesteal. Conflux, anytime you apply a status effect, it gives you a chance to randomly apply Electrocute, Ignite, or Melt. This is how we're getting all of the elements onto any enemies we hit. And Forceful Expression is just bonus elemental damage. Root to Rise, we don't care too much about our shields, we care more about stacking as much health as possible. And Helping Hands, after using your action skill, you get damage reduction. This is 40% damage reduction for 15 seconds. And if you see, I don't have my arms out. If I grasp the ground, I did not hit an enemy. See, it goes instantly up for reset. I have my hands out. You do not need to actually grasp an enemy to proc any of the skills that say like on activating or on ending an action skill, and we'll go into that further whenever I talk about the weapons. And the blue tree, Violent Tapestry, we just needed points to get into the next tier. You could put them here if you want to, but we will always be at max rush stacks anyway because of our class mod. This is weapon swap speed. You will be switching weapons quite a bit depending on what you're fighting. And Transcend just gives you crit damage after using an action skill. Again, grasp the ground, increase crit damage. So that pretty much sums up the skills. Everything we are wearing has a very specific use. So this is not a build you're going to be able to just farm for an hour and get every piece you need. A big shout out to Trollsies. He helped me piece together this build, theory crafting and collecting gear. So huge thank you to him. But as far as the weapons go, you're only really going to be using 3. We chose Crossroads as our primary weapon because it does insane damage and it had the augment we needed on it. So the first weapon you want, preferably corrosive, so that you can deal with armor. Shields are never going to be a huge issue unless you're bossing and this is not really a boss build. So shields are not an issue. We went with corrosive just to burn through armor quickly. And the big big importance on this weapon is on action skill end, your weapon status damage and chance are increased. As I said earlier, you grasp the ground. As soon as it goes back off of cooldown or comes, I don't even know how to explain this, you pop this, and now you have increased damage and chance on your status. You don't even need to hit an enemy. So you need that augment, and you need preferably a corrosive weapon. But we tried to choose different kinds of weapons so we weren't double dipping into ammo pools. So this is our primary weapon. We'll be holding this in our hand 90% of the time. The Butcher is our anointed killer weapon of choice. So anytime an anointed comes out, we pretty much switch to the Butcher and we grasp him and we just burn him down. But you'll see that later. The Shocking AAA is only here to strip shields. I occasionally use it if I'm low on health. You could pull this out, and since it has such a high elemental chance, you pretty much heal to full in one clip. So that's kind of useful for that, but it's mainly used for stripping shields. You'll be switching between these two weapons most of the time. And the loot is just from another build, ignore this. As for the infinite grenades, you need an anointed hex. It doesn't have to be a hex for the infinite grenades, but the hex is probably the best build, or the best grenade for this build. So the anointment on action skill start, you regenerate a grenade. So I throw a grenade, grasp the ground, get a grenade back. Grenade, grasp. Grenade, grasp. Never run out of grenades. So that is where the infinite grenades is coming from. The skill coming off of cooldown extremely quickly is coming from the anointed on this shield. On action skill end, your action skill cooldown rate is increased by 20%. Again, grasp the ground, it procs. As for the class mod and the artifact, you're going to want grenade damage and action skill cooldown on both of these. The third skill or the third stat roll does not really matter that much. We went mag size here just because we're stacking mag size anyway, and weapon damage helps a lot. But the priority here is grenade damage, action skill cooldown. As for the actual artifact itself, we went with Phazerker just because it rolls with Conflux and Anima, two of our more potent skills. The actual action skill used, Amara grants her max rush stacks, blah blah blah. It gives you cooldown on top of all of the other cooldown we're stacking. And since we're always at max rush stacks because of this, you just have insane cooldown. The artifact itself does not matter. You can use the Snowdrift Victory Rush like what I'm using. You can use an auto. The prefix and the actual artifact itself does not matter. You just want the action skill and the grenade damage. So use whatever you want here. And that pretty much sums it up for the gear. Oh, one other thing. There are 3 elements of the hex. You can get cryo, corrosion, and radiation. It does not matter which one you use. As long as you're applying a status effect, it is going to proc Conflux. But the ice has a much higher efficiency, which means it's going to be proccing a lot more and a lot faster. So this is one change that we made later into theory crafting this build, and it actually works out really, really well. But if you can't get your hands on an ice one, either of the other elements, I can't even talk today, will work. But let's go out here and show you what this build can do. These are some terrible modifiers. So we're doing less cryo, less radiation, less corrosive. So pretty much everything we're trying to boost is being nerfed. But it shouldn't be a problem. And as I said, this is like my 3rd take on this video, so we've already done a wave or 2, and there's already some loot on the ground somewhere down there. But just ignore that. So to start out, you want to have your primary weapon in your hands. You want to grasp to get that bonus. Throw the grenade. Grasp. Throw the grenade. Just rinse and repeat. If you do accidentally grasp an enemy, it's like if I come over here, accidentally hit one of these guys with the grasp, 5-second cooldown. And just continue grasping.
Got a target for you.
Try not to hit yourself with your own grenades. If you do hit yourself with your own grenade, you can actually proc Conflux on yourself and you will die. There is almost no way to survive it. The stopgap kind of somewhat helps you, so you get a minute of immunity to try and position yourself if you know you're going to die. But if you hit yourself with the grenade, if I throw it at my feet, you're pretty much guaranteed to die. You're pushing out that much elemental damage. So this will be a good example of the grouping. So if they come down and you see a bunch of enemies kind of together, you can grasp one, they'll all get pulled in, and they're linked. So now they're all taking shared damage to that first guy. And I think I just hit myself with that grenade. I did. So this is a good example. You want to try and position yourself so that you can easily get a kill. Never mind. The status effect actually wore off. Like, your guns still do substantial damage. You're not completely bound to only using your grenades. You can still shoot every now and then if you get bored of throwing grenades. But as far as badass enemies like this one, this is not a good example because he's shielding, but if you have like a really tough, like an anointed, you would grasp the ground, you would grasp him, and then just line him up with the butcher, and they die extremely quickly. So there's almost no enemy aside from bosses that this build struggles in killing. These annoying ass enemies that never want to come down from their hiding spots, not a problem. But that pretty much sums up the build. One little addition, the reason we have the Leuta in the 4th slot, if you do need to kill a boss, you can simply come in here, switch to your phase cast, pull out the Leuta, and because of the augment that we have on here, or the anointed, after using phase cast you get increased damage, so say these big robots are actually spawned in, I'm not actually going to play through this, but say they were spawned in, you'd phase cast, and then shoot. And since you have such high cooldowns, your phase cast will come back in time, and you just phase cast again, shoot. It's not as fast as a fadeaway flak or an actual boss killing build, but it will get the job done regardless, and all you have to do to fix your build back is come back in and put your phase grasp back on, and you're right back to throwing grenades.
Happy now?
But if you guys have any questions about the build, or if you have any recommendations for further builds, just leave it in the comment section below and I will get to it. Take it easy.